Hi, this is Ushio, and welcome back to Roman's Christmas. However, I've checked out the title screen again, and it is now Elegant's Christmas. We are playing this game from Elegant's perspective because Roman is our main suspect in this case. So we have got Anzox, Roman, Herin, Thrivi, Sarzan, and Solar. Vinsel should be here as well, but I don't see him. But we have just lost poor old Peter. Peter got stabbed in his sleep by the looks of it. And we're about to find out what happened. Let's load up and carry on. After a thorough search, I asked everyone to come to the hall for trial. We're a bit thin on the ground for people now. You seem a little nervous. Oh, do I? You're crumpling the hem of your dress. Oh, so I am. First time adjudicating? Doesn't matter, because the great Anzox is here to help. I doubt I'm going to get help from someone like you. Okay, thanks. Let's start with the simplest, oh, don't mind me, carry on. Roman spoke habitually and then remembered the situation and covered his mouth. Very well, let us rule out the simplest case first. Here we go. Peter was, it's quite obvious this time, that much is clear. You've got it right for once. Peter should not be able to stab himself so many times, then peacefully cover himself with a quilt as he took his final breath. Peter couldn't do this, but someone else could have done it for him. Are you suggesting... Let us assume, for the sake of argument, that Peter committed suicide. The scene could have been arranged by someone like this. Really? Peter was not murdered. It was suicide. Peter stabbed himself with a ham knife from the kitchen into his heart first, and then pulled out the knife, fell on the bed and died. Sometime later, another person entered the scene and arranged Peter's body on the bed and covered it with a quilt, so it looked like he was still sleeping. Then they inserted the knife back in, causing multiple wounds. The one who did it did so because they wanted to frame Roman for Peter's death. Something feels off. Time to press harder. Really? Okay, sitting on the bed. Why did he commit suicide while sitting on the bed? Would it not be better if he laid down and did it? And if he wanted to stab the knife into his body, sitting would definitely be more convenient. If you lie down and try and stab down, it would be difficult to push hard. He probably wouldn't be able to get a deep enough puncture. Fascinating. Perhaps it would be more convincing if you could provide a quick personal demonstration. No, I ain't doing that. Okay. Order of putting knife and lying down. What if the knife was pulled out after he fell down onto the bed? Isn't that harder to do? The knife would sink in deeper if he'd fallen on his back. Reasonable, but I'm not convinced. Okay, multiple wounds. Why was he stabbed so many times? To make it look more like a murder. Okay. Blame Roman. I need to frame him? Why? I don't know. Maybe they had some kind of blood feud, or maybe he just hated Roman that much. Talk about leaping to conclusions. Okay, we'll leave it there. From the top, please. What do you mean? I mean for you to repeat your testimony? Yeah, add in what you just said. Peter was not murdered. It was a suicide. He stabbed himself while sitting on the edge of the bed and made a wound deep enough to be fatal. And then he pulled out the knife, because it would be hard to pull out the knife if he fell down on the bed first and then collapsed. Sometime later, another person entered the scene and arranged Peter's body on the bed and covered it with the quilt, so he looked like that he was still sleeping. Then, in order to make it look worse, they stabbed the body again, leaving more wounds. Someone here hates Roman, so they wanted to frame him for Peter's death. So you think Peter was seated on the edge of the bed with his chest spraying blood everywhere? Yeah, that's right. Then it seems to contradict the evidence. What? Which evidence conflicts with Anzox's conjecture? So, here's the autopsy. Sarzan found Peter dead in Herin's room around 30 minutes ago. Time of death, 3 hours ago. Pete suffered multiple wounds to his chest, caused by the ham knife found in the body, severely injuring his internal organs. No sign of a struggle. Peter was found with a quilt covering him. That actually sounds okay. So here's the blood in the scene. There was a large spatter of blood on the wall with the splash patterns. The wounds spewed blood while Peter was lying on the bed. Okay, we'll go with that. The blood. The blood covered the whole room. Which bit do you mean? On the wall? Up here? The stains on the wall. What? You can easily follow the directions where they come from. If you trace the patterns back to their origin, you can see they come from under the pillow, which means the blood spurted onto the wall when Peter was lying on the bed. If Peter killed himself as you said, then the blood spray would be impossible. Okay, so Anzox, stop it. He's still arguing. That is to say, Peter was killed by someone when he was lying in bed. If it was a murder, then the prime suspect is... Hold it. Anzox winked and gestured toward me. We're all making a shush noise. If you keep going, won't Roman become... I glared back. We can bypass the ruling of suspects out and move straight to the prime suspect if you want. The prime suspect for now should be... Who is the prime suspect? I mean, it is Roman. I would not say his actions are warm-hearted, but he does have a way of making one feel at ease. Okay, sorry, Roman. Sorry, it's you. You're still suspicious. While this is hardly a professional opinion, I must state that there is an excess of evidence pointing to Roman being the killer. First, the bloody shirt. The fact that you insisted on being the night watchman last night, which would give you the opportunity, and the footprints leading from the crime scene to where you were found asleep. Honestly, anyone would think I'm the killer. But I'm not. I know I don't have any proof, but you have to believe me. Okay, let's hear the statement. There's not much to say, is there? Okay, let's try this. Yesterday, I had to keep watch at night in the lobby. Due to my heavy cold, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, well, you know the rest. I've been on the ground floor the whole night. I never went upstairs last night at all. Okay. What do you mean, had to? I mean, I didn't want to do it at first, but I felt like it was necessary. Okay. What about your cold? You still have a cold. It takes some time to recover from a cold, even a mild one. It's pretty normal to feel exhausted when ill, which is exactly why I assert Roman shouldn't have been the night watchman. Okay. You fell asleep. How could you even do that? Admittedly, I'm hardly one to talk about falling asleep at inopportune times. It's common to feel exhausted with the cold. Okay, we'll leave it at that. You didn't go upstairs though. How do you explain the footprints leading to you if you never went upstairs? They're obviously planted. If I actually committed the crime, I wouldn't have been so careless. Perhaps you deliberately chose not to clean up the crime scene. That's far-fetched, man. Okay, we'll leave it there. Testimony again. Let's get to the bottom of this. Although I wasn't exactly willing to serve as the watchman last night, I still agreed to it in the end. I've suffered from a cold for recent days. I feel exhausted and I kind of dozed off. And then when I woke up, you know everything else. Seriously, I never went upstairs during the watch. Someone has obviously tried to frame me by making the footprints. Hold on. Oh, okay, we're going to go for it. What is this? What's wrong? Something feels off about your testimony. What evidence conflicts with his testimony? Look at how much evidence there is to go through. Okay, Roman insisted on keeping watch himself, even though in his testimony he says that he felt obliged. Okay. If I remember correctly, you insisted to hold the post of watchman yourself last night. You could have easily refused due to your illness, but you still agreed to it. Can you tell us your reason? It's only because I couldn't stop everything that happened during the past few days. I only did it because I felt guilty. But there's so much evidence. Elegant, what do you think happened? Okay. Oh, we're going straight into it. Oh no, this is quick. Okay, the weapon. First things first, the weapon. It is the ham knife. The murder is blatantly showing us that the weapon is the missing ham knife from the kitchen. Okay, the method. Modus operandi. This is how the puzzle fits together. Deductive reasoning. Arrange the occurrences chronologically from top to bottom by dragging chips to each position. Suspect burnt the underclothes. Suspect went back to room to get clothes. The suspect argued with Peter. The suspect killed Peter. The suspect went back downstairs. The suspect fell asleep during the night watch. The suspect went to the kitchen to get a knife. Oh wow. So there is a lot going on here, and all of it points at Roman. Sorry dude, it is not looking good for you. Maybe something like this. So the suspect went to the kitchen to get the knife, killed Peter, then they burnt their underclothes as evidence, then they went, oh no, they went back downstairs, then they burnt the clothes, and then they fell asleep during watch. It feels weird, but I don't know why. Oh, that's not right. So let's try this one instead. The suspect went to the kitchen to get the knife, and then they went down to get clothes. Then they killed Peter, went back downstairs, and then they burnt their clothes. So the sleep thing was just a bit of a wind-up. We'll go with this. This is how it happened. Okay. This is not looking good for Roman at all. The murder is... Oh man, sorry dude. As much as I don't want to admit it, as far as I can tell, The murderer has to be Roman. Alas. Oh shit, motive. I don't know why. About the motive though. What motivation did Roman have to kill Peter? Peter witnessed murder? He owed Peter money. There was a conflict. I guess we'll go with the conflict. There was also the business that Peter wanted us to write a letter for him. I don't know about that. They had an argument. Do I really seem that mean? Okay. Oh shit. And that's how it goes. Hold on a sec. Okay, do this again. When everyone was asleep, you went to the kitchen, took the ham knife, and then you went upstairs silently. You went back to your room first, took a shirt with you to block the spurting blood. Then you opened the door of Peter's room and stabbed Peter to death in his sleep. Then you took off your shirt, went downstairs, threw it into the fire, and when you were in the hall, but unfortunately it did not burn completely. You fell asleep before you were able to clear away the footprints. Is that so? Why would you bother getting rid of some of the evidence when there's blood literally everywhere all over the floor? That's ridiculous. Something is clearly wrong here. What's wrong? Let me think. It's you. You did it. I didn't want to believe you could do something like that, but now I have to admit it. I was wrong to believe in you. No. Don't come any closer. I didn't expect you to be so evil. I believe in your good nature. We'll go with this. I can't believe it. Is Roman really the culprit? Based solely on the evidence available, it could only be him. No, I must have missed something. I haven't figured it out yet, but I know the puzzle is not yet complete. I need to stop them before it's too late. Wait, I still got some questions. What? But your summarization pretty much locked everything down. Oh, there it is. There's the piece I was missing. Thank you, Anzox. What did I miss? I do not know. Peter's door was locked and not violently open. Didn't Sazan himself lock all of the doors? The keys. It's always the keys. What? What? On the first day of the tavern, Sazan said this. How many keys does each guest room have? 2. 1 for guests. If the room's empty, I hang it on my bedside in the attic. In other words, the night the crime happened, only Sazan and Peter had a key to the room. Moreover, the door to the room was locked this morning. If his habits remain consistent, Peter must have locked his door well before the incident took place. Therefore, the murderer must have somehow obtained the key. First, I need to be sure which key the murderer got. The key the murderer got was... whose? Was it Peter? Or Sazan's? But Peter's... it was in the drawer, inside, so it must be Sazan's. Yeah. That's impossible. All my keys are accounted for, and I haven't let them out of my sight. Sazan took the keychain from his waist and counted them one by one. See? Front door key, stellar key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Wait, the 8th key. Where could it be? Sazan turned the keychain around and shakily recounted the keys. I'm missing a key. Now that we know which key the murderer has stolen, we should figure out when the key was stolen. When did the murderer steal the room key? Oh wow, we got to pick a day. So it's either on the very first day when we all arrived? Or Boxing Day? Today's the 27th, and Heron and Peter did switch rooms. Maybe they didn't switch keys? The murderer stole the key from Sazan on the 26th. Boxing Day, I don't remember losing a key on that day. Okay, 24th. Christmas Eve, I don't remember. Okay, so 25th. Oh, it's when Vincel stole them and then gave them back. We'll do that. Christmas Day, let me think. On that day, I went to the cellar. It's weird. I remember leaving my keychain on the counter. Now I can't find it. Maybe you put it somewhere? Maybe. I'll keep looking. But after a while, I found it on the counter again, so I didn't think much about it. Did you recount the keys when you found the keychain again? I mean, I didn't think it was such a big deal at the time. Why would I have thought of counting it again? Since then, the keys were always with you? There's one more. My key's locked inside my room. The keychain is pinned to my waist. Take it for yourself and return it afterward. Okay. Wait, the door's open again. I didn't dare take them off because of the 2 murders that happened. And there you have it. The murderer stole the key on Sazan on the 25th. And if Roman isn't the murderer, then who opened Roman's room? That was simple. How did the murderer get Roman's key? I don't know. The key right beside Sazan's nightstand, where the vacant keys hang? No, it wasn't vacant, so that's no. Oh yeah, here. Roman was too sleepy to make it through the vigil because he caught a cold, and when he was half asleep he heard a rustling noise. His room key had been in the right pocket of the overcoat, but when he woke up it was in the left side. Someone switched it. Roman's testimony mentioned one thing, which made me concerned. How did the murderer get Roman's key? Roman fell asleep while someone else stayed up. Roman heard voices when he stayed up. Roman's key moved. We'll go with that. Roman said that his key was originally in the right-hand pocket of his coat, but when he woke up it was in the left side. In other words, someone took the key when he was sleeping. In short, the killer had to have access to the keys to both rooms. But like you said, Roman could have access to both keys. True, Roman has not escaped suspicion, but now we have two possible suspects. When you lose your keys, they all happen to be in the same general area at the time. One was Roman, the other was... So, what, Sazan? Really? Even Sazan could not locate the keys. How could that be possible? Okay, so... Look at all these dead people. Oh no, Peter's... His portrait doesn't even fit into the square because he's so short. That's harsh, man. Is it Heron? He doesn't lock his door, does he? So that would mean that Peter's room wasn't locked because he didn't have a key or something? Heron was the last one to take the keychain, that is for sure. But come to think of it, he failed to use the key then. My key's locked inside my room. The keychain is pinned to my waist. Take it yourself and return it afterward. Oh, okay. Wait, the door's open again. Yeah, that was weird. Maybe there was another who had a chance to take the key. Who is the second suspect? This is all kinds of weird. I mean, the only other person who stole the keys was Vincel, but he's been tied up. I locked him in the cellar. It's impossible. Besides, Heron was the last one to take the keys. Okay, so it's definitely not Vincel. Checking the log again. I thought it was on repeat. I was just clicking the wrong things, but no. Elegant says it's entirely possible because you had not locked the cellar. What? Did you forget? What was the evidence that Sazan had not locked the cellar? So we are starting to look toward Vincel, aren't we? I'm honestly not sure. But we're always focused in on these keys. Sazan did lock them, right? Although you had the key to the trapdoor of the cellar. When you testified today, you said it like this. Every guest's room was locked. Yeah, I forgot about that. In other words, Vincel could have escaped from the cellar. I don't believe it. Wait a second. I don't mean to accuse you of anything, but Vincel can easily open the cellar door and come out. He wouldn't be able to break the rope or untie my knots. He couldn't even free himself from the bondage, much less steal the keys or kill someone. Vincel was indeed tied up in the cellar today. Only one way left. I'd like to confront Vincel face to face. We've discussed enough. Okay, let's get him out. Sazan took a step toward the counter, ready to squeeze through. I don't like when people are leaving my line of sight, because things always seem to happen. Don't bring him. We all go down. Maybe that. Wait a second. What? Don't bring him up. How can he give testimony if he doesn't come upstairs? We'll go down to him. Oh, what's the difference? Just go down. I came to ask what you did last night. Did you notice anything wrong? How could I know? Talk. Just check his ropes. Are they really tied up? I was here the whole evening, doing nothing but sleep. And that's everything. Nothing else? Nothing else. Wow, gotta find a way to get him to speak. Elegant, what? Over here. Is that? I found the key. Where? Behind the barrel. Here we go. And I discovered something else, though I don't know what it could mean. What? When the cellar was first built, the iron chain on the barrel rack was handed over to the blacksmith's apprentice for practice. That apprentice was a few sandwiches short of a picnic. The chain he made was hinged without grinding it smooth, and every time I touch it I'd scratch my scales. Over time I tried to avoid it and not touch the chain, so it developed a layer of rust. So? I just glanced when I picked up the key, and I saw that there was a lot less rust on the chain than usual. Oh, has he rubbed up his ropes against it, so he's cut his own rope? So what happened? Oh, normally I would take a more deceitful approach to making Vincel talk, but Roman, I doubt he would accept anything other than logic and facts to solve the case. The last thing he needs is more stress. As annoying as it is, perhaps I should do it his way. Okay, my way or Roman's way? Oh, okay, we've got to work this out. So we need to choose whether we do Elegant's method or Roman's method. I think we used the Roman's method, so maybe we should go with that. I don't know. I should use the method Roman likes most to get the information from him. Fair and direct questioning. Peter was murdered, and now you're the suspect. Go upstairs. Peter, my good feline, how could I have done it? Vincel twisted erratically as Sarzan carried him upstairs. By the way, I already know why you're not willing to disclose the motive behind the attack on Hanzox. Why didn't Vincel explain his motive? The secret between him and Hanzox, killing without motivation, he was aiming at someone else. Your target was not, in fact, Hanzox. In both cases, one person was involved, and that person is Heron. Peter was killed because he and Heron had exchanged rooms without your knowledge. Hanzox was murdered by your sabotage on Christmas Eve because Heron asked him to get his belongings. In both incidents, Heron was the one who would have been the victim, but who happened to escape by accident. Logically speaking, if the real target of both cases was Heron, and the killer was you, then your refusal to disclose the motive to hurt Hanzox suddenly makes sense. Because you never intended to hurt Hanzox at all, because that would attract the attention of your real target, which was Heron. Exchanged rooms? They exchanged their rooms in private. Anyone would have made that mistake. Unfortunately, this was not done in private. Why would no one kill Peter by mistake except Vincel? Because it was done in public. Everybody knew about it. Here we go, Heron's testimony. Everyone in the hall knows about it. At the time they were talking openly about exchanging rooms in the lobby, so it was impossible that no one heard it. No, just let it go. Heron and I don't even know each other. I thought you knew each other. Why did Vincel know Heron? Because of the gloves. Where are we? Elegant took a job, and yeah, the gloves that the person who hired her, it reminds her. Where are we? So much. Vincel's gloves. The gloves I found in the drawer feel similar to the ones my client wore. The pair of gloves in your room drawer reminded me of something. When I received the task of investigating the Cathedral of St. Isaac while in Alit, I accidentally touched the gloves my client was wearing. They feel exactly the same as yours. And your store is in the same town. You expect me to believe that this is a coincidence? Oh, I did commission someone to investigate something, but it's got nothing to do with this. Really now? Sure. A wicked smile flashed across his lips. Think carefully, my dear feline. Do you really want to go down this road? You know what will happen if you break a confidential contract, don't you? Now I understand why detectives refuse to involve themselves with criminals. If I revealed that Vincel was my client, it would be a breach of a confidential contract. That meant no money. And I already spent my advance on this ridiculous outfit. But if I give up here, Roman will... I mean, if this guy's going to get executed anyway, it's not as though anybody's going to know. Let's keep pushing, keep pushing. Then in future, I'll amend my contract to prevent murderers from threatening me into helping hide their crimes. I might be a mercenary, but even I have standards. Vincel stared at me, then snarled as his bound body leaned forward. Now, back to the case. You once again missed your actual target because Peter and Heron switched rooms. Because you had no idea of the exchange, you went straight to the room Heron had been staying in, unaware that the person inside was actually Peter. After that, you took it for granted that you killed Heron, not Peter, which is why you have the key to the room that Peter was in. Shut up. Okay, what you got? What's he gonna say? As splendid as that long lecture of yours was, aren't you ignoring the most fundamental problem? Okay. Sarzan has completely tied my hands. Oh, I'd not expected him to be that quick. I'd hoped my momentum would force a confession. What, do you think there's a way I could kill someone with my hands tied behind my back? I almost have him focus. It is not as if you cannot pick up a knife with your hands tied behind you. Is gibbering the best you can manage? That was too far-fetched, but I cannot think of any other explanation. Hold it. Oh, here comes Roman. Is it okay that you speak? Since there's no way that he could commit murder if he's tied up, why not assume that he wasn't tied up when he did it? It hardly seems easy to untie, but I think I understand. You want me not to consider the situation of being tied up but still able to commit murder, but to consider he was not tied up when he did it. That's to say, what did the killer use to break the rope? It's the chain. He used the chain. It must have been. They got the cellar chain, sharp edges, but a lot of the rust has been rubbed off. Sarzan just mentioned that the iron chain in the cellar is very sharp. Also, the rust on the chain has been rubbed off by something. And so, Vincel rubbed off the rope. Vincel gnawed the chain. Yeah, rubbed. Vincel used the sharp chain to cut the rope. But Vincel's still tied up right now. How do you explain that? That's because... So, the disconnected rope? Tie up the disconnected rope or grasp. He's only holding it. Check his hands. After Vincel broke the rope and did the deed, he went back to the cellar and made himself look like he was still tied up. Make himself... Can you do that? Easy. You see, Vincel did not need to really tie himself up again. The broken end of the rope is not reconnected, which makes it easy for Vincel to feign capture. You see the broken ends of the rope are currently in his hands. As long as you hold the rope heads firmly, you can fix the shape of the rope around you and give the illusion that it's secure. What? How could such an absurd thing be true? Just check his back. If you disagree, all you have to do is open your hands. Okay, splendidly played. That's it. Got him. Vincel shook his head and relaxed his arms. The ropes fell loose and coiled around Vincel's feet like a dead snake. I give up. Finally. Then let us put the puzzle to rights. Okay, we'll do this again. So first up is the weapon, which he got from the kitchen. So there's no doubt that the weapon is still the ham knife. The method. And now, to complete the puzzle. Arrange the occurrences chronologically from top to bottom by dragging chips to each position. The suspect tied himself back. There we go. The suspect burnt the clothes. Suspect entered Peter's room to kill him. Definitely. The suspect jumped out the window. No. The suspect stole Roman's key. The suspect rubbed off the rope. The suspect befuddled Roman. Okay, the suspect stole Roman's key and burnt his clothes. I think it's that. Rubbed off the rope, stole Roman's key, entered Peter's room to kill him, burnt the clothes, and tied himself back. We'll go with that. This is it. Next is the suspect, which is now Vincel. The murderer is... We are so thin on cast members now from how we started. Okay, sorry Vincel, it's you. The murderer is no one but Vincel. And the motive... We're still not fully sure of the motive. The motivation is much clearer than before. Yeah, he was after Heron. The motivation was his hatred for Heron, although he missed the correct target twice. I wanted to point out the connections between the familiar gloves, St. Isaac's Cathedral, the Noble Brothers and the monks, and the relation between Vincel and Heron. But if I do so, my identity would be exposed. Okay. And this is how things played out. Okay. Vincel had been waiting for revenge after injuring Anzox by mistake and being tied up in the cellar. During this period, he did two things. First, he never mentioned his motive for hurting Anzox. Second, he broke the rope using the cellar chain and rebound himself and held the ends of his hands to make it look like he was still secured. In the middle of the night, Vincel quietly opened the cellar door and snuck into the hall where he saw Roman, who was asleep. Seeing Roman asleep, he took off his shoes and put them on his own feet, and then... He plucked his fur. He stole his key. Vincel stole his room key. Then he went to the kitchen, took the ham knife. Then Vincel went upstairs with a knife and stole one of the shirts Roman had brought with him before putting his real plan into motion. Vincel opened the door with the key he had hidden in advance on the 24th. And I thought it was on the 25th, but okay. And that was the key to the room that Heron had been sleeping in. But the person he killed was actually Peter. That's it, stab him. Vincel took his shirt to prevent blood from splashing, killing Peter with a ham knife. Then Vincel went downstairs in bloody boots. As he passed the fireplace, he threw his shirt into it and redressed himself, and then walked to Roman and stuck the bloody boots onto his feet so that the tracks would lead to him. Thinking his mission was accomplished, Vincel went back to the cellar, tied himself up, and waited for the outcome to play out. In the end, I couldn't finish it. Well, since you're about to execute me, I might as well explain why I wanted to kill that obnoxious hyena. Your reasons better be good. I'm going to make sure your death is long and slow. All of you heard about the construction accident at the Cathedral of St. Isaac, right? Oh, Heron's gone quiet. It was said that the Noble Brothers who oversaw the project used inferior materials to build the church and enrich themselves, and were buried in the collapse as punishment for their greed, right? Could it be? In fact, one of the two brothers survived and was found guilty of malfeasance. He lost his title and his property, and had the end of his right pinky cut off. Vince pulled off the glove on his right hand, exposing a greatly shortened little finger. He left Rinth, changed his identity, and set about rebuilding himself as a merchant in the small town called Allet. But all this time he never forgot what happened, and when the time was right, decided to take revenge on the abbot and the friar who falsely accused and framed him. I... falsely accused? Framed? How could you? Even before the building of the cathedral, the amount that was being tithed to the nearby churches was curiously low compared to the attendance numbers. It was thought that the Cathedral of St. Isaac would be able to fill both the spiritual and financial gap. My brother and I both believed and trusted the abbot, at least until the stone pillar snapped and collapsed on us. Vincel wiped his eyes and raised his head again. But since it's pretty clear God doesn't want me to take revenge, I really have no other choice. Vincel shook his glove and a small bottle tumbled out from where his right pinky was, and it fell into his hand. He pulled the stopper free with his teeth, spat it out, and downed the contents in one gulp. He's going to poison himself. Wait. You should rejoice. This is only enough for one person. Vincel collapsed against the counter. The bottle rolled on the carpet and stopped, and a mixed scent of bitter almonds and apple filled the air. Thruvy approached, checked his pulse, and shook his head. Sarzan hesitated for a while, and then stepped forward, and hoisted the corpse up by the armpits, and began dragging it to the door of the pub. Wait, can I pray for him first? Okay, Elegant and Roman, please give me a hand down here. Everybody else, go upstairs and rest. It's still early, and I think everyone's tired. Oh, it's finally over. Thank you, Elegant. It had been my neck in the noose if you hadn't trusted me. Well, at least I figured out one thing. Okay, what's that? The person who hired you to investigate the collapse of the Cathedral of St. Isaac was Vincel, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe it was. He also came from Allet Town. He was directly related to the matter. Even the material of his gloves was the same as what my client wore. Then your reward? It matters little. I had yet to start the investigation really, so it's a mere loss. A mere massive loss. I paid through the nose for a disguise that I can no longer use. But something bothers me. Why did Vincel not notice it was Peter in the bed and not Heron? Oh, Vincel's a lynx, so he should have had excellent night vision. Well, could he see clearly in the cellar? He seemed, it might sound strange, but it seemed he failed to recognise me several times. But he didn't have any problem in the hole. Nyctalopia? What's that? A type of vision deficiency. If you don't eat viscera or carrots for a long time, your night vision will gradually weaken. Although I didn't exactly catalogue Vincel's eating habits, I think it might be the best possible explanation for now. It seems that might be. So when Sarzan cooked carrot stew, Vincel refused to touch it. Well, I think I'm going to make my way upstairs. Thruvy squatted and hauled the rope down to lower the ladder. Okay, speaking of the strange things. Thruvy lowered the ladder by himself, or the ladder didn't make a sound. Thruvy did it himself. Since when can you move the ladder by yourself? Since Sarzan fixed the blasted thing, although the ladder has been moving quite a lot, there was no strange sound. Because the track is not as smooth as before, I can barely operate the ladder. Well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to go and collapse in my room. Can we talk later? Very well. Good morning then. Roman unlocked his door and stepped inside. Then, that testimony. Can we go over it? Sure. I should probably rest too. I fell into my bed and tried to relax, trying not to think about the massive fee that had just evaporated. Okay, when I regained consciousness, the first thing that hit me was pain. Indescribable pain. The once splendid stones and slates pressed down on my chest and stomach. It was like trying to breathe through a thick layer of cowhide covering my mouth and nose. I could breathe out, but not breathe in. Brando? Are you okay? My brother reached out for me with trembling hands, and I could smell the blood in the narrow space. Brando, please live on. Remember, for me. Don't say it. Someone will find us. I don't know what his last thoughts were, but I'd like to think they were this. Avenge me. Oh wow. And that is the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 is the last chapter. But I think before we continue on, I think there's something else we can check out first. So we have solved the crime, and we do know that Vincel is the murderer. However, there was this point. We can choose a different method to go about it. So we did Roman's method. Let's try Elegant's method to see how different it is. Only someone as stubborn as foolish as Roman would think of fighting a suspect fairly. If he can do it, then I should be able to too as well. Okay, so let's do this again. But using Elegant's method is going to be slightly different, so we're just going to check this out. I just came downstairs to ask you 2 questions. The others are almost sure that Roman's the murderer. Being in the same tavern as a killer detective, a pity about Heron. Oh yeah? What's that? What's wrong with Vincel's words? Heron is poor? Roman's the killer. Heron's poor. What about him? I might not have been his friend. He was still a splendid friar. Why, is it odd to mourn the dead? Not in the least, but you've piqued my curiosity. How did you know who died? Well, now, because I heard you talking about it in the hall? Yeah. You have excellent hearing, then. Tarzan covered his mouth tightly, but didn't let himself laugh. Follow me upstairs if you would. So he's already outed himself. He said that Heron had got killed, and that's obviously not true. Let me introduce the victim for the case, Father Heron. Oh, what? I must admit, this is so satisfying. Now, as to why you thought the victim was Heron, I've got an interesting idea. Of all the people present, only Vincel was in the cellar, and because of that, he was unable to hear the discussion from earlier today, which means there's only one thing that Vincel does not know, and because of that, nobody in this tavern except Vincel could make this mistake. What did Vincel miss to make him think that he killed Heron? He didn't know about the key switching, so I think that that's probably the major difference. We tricked him into confessing, whereas Roman's one is by pure negotiation. Everyone in the hall knew. Peter felt unsafe in his room and made a request to exchange his room. Exchange the room? Exactly. That's also why you misjudged the identity of the victim. Although there's no basis for putting forward this hypothesis, it's also the only one that makes logical sense. Firstly, you're the murderer. Secondly, your target's not Peter, but it's actually Heron. Yep. If you talked about somebody else by mistake, I'd probably not think it was suspicious. But when I said someone had died, you immediately assumed it was him. Heron exchanged rooms with Peter. Anzox was injured by your sabotage because Heron asked for his help. In both cases, Heron would have been killed by your actions, but escaped by chance. Strictly speaking, the real target of both attempts was Heron, and the murderer is you. It suddenly makes sense why you'd refuse to disclose your motive in attacking Anzox. Because you had no incentive to hurt Anzox at all, the last thing you wanted was to alert your real target. Now back to the case. Peter was killed because of your ignorance. You did not know that Peter and Heron had exchanged rooms, so when you went upstairs to commit the crime, you went straight to Heron's original room. After that, you took it for granted that you killed Heron and not Peter. And by the way, I'm almost certain that you have the key to the room. Shut up! As splendid as that long lecture of yours was, aren't you ignoring the most fundamental problem? Okay, and that is all the stuff that we saw before. That he's all tied up. So yeah, I think we've seen what we need to see. This guy's going to kill himself again, and then we're going to continue on in chapter 5 in the next episode. This is Usho signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.